Good day. So today we will discuss genomics. Okay, so the next three slides will talk about the timeline of the evolution of genome projects and related technologies. So in 1977, two methods of DNA sequencing are invented, and by 1990, Human Genome Project officially begins. And by 1991, express sequence technology identifies protein encoding DNA sequences, and by 1992, the first DNA microarrays are available. And by 1994, US and French researchers published preliminary map of 6,000 genetic markers, one every 1 million bases along the chromosomes. By 1995, emphasis shifts from gene mapping to sequencing, and the first genome sequence is the Haemophilus influenzae. Then, in 1996, resolution to make all data public and updated daily at GenBank website. So the first eukaryote genome sequence is the yeast. By 1999, rate of filing of new sequences in GenBank triples. So the public consortium and two private companies rate to complete sequencing. So the first human chromosomes is sequenced in 1999. By 2000, completion of first draft human genome sequence is announced, and the microarray technology flourishes. So the first plant and fungal genomes are sequenced. By 2001, two versions of draft human genome sequence are published. And by 2003, during the 50th anniversary of the DNA structure discovery, the finished human genome sequence was announced. So the human exome sequence available on DNA microarrays, and the HapMap project identifies linkage patterns. And by 2004, the final version of the human genome sequence is published. By 2008, the first genome synthesized is the Mycoplasma genitalium, and by 2010, several human genomes are sequenced. So the first synthetic genome supports a bacterial cell, and by now, 4,000 bacterial and viral and 250 eukaryotic species genomes have been sequenced. By 2012, 1,000 Genome Project completes cataloging of human genetic diversity, and by 2014, tens of thousands of human genomes and hundreds of thousands of human exomes are sequenced. And in the near future, personal human genome sequencing is a routine part of healthcare. So we're working on that. This may give advantages and also disadvantages in our human life, but regardless of the outcome, it will help to prevent uncertain and abnormalities. So, analysis of the human genome. So, before the first drafts of the human genome were done, researchers were already working on the next stages by identifying sites of variation and continuing the discovery of functions of individual genes. So, there are projects that was open to analyze human genomes. We have the HapMap. So from 2003 to 2005, assembled SNPs maps to establish haplotypes for use in gene identification. We also have the ENCODE, or the Encyclopedia of DNA Elements, that began in 2003 with parts lists of representative 1% of the genome. They went on analyzing functional coding as well as non-coding sequences in entire genome, while the Personal Genomes Project began in 2005 at Harvard University. And we also have the Human Variome Project that began in 2006 to collect, organize, and share data on genetic variation, especially affecting health through disease-specific variation databases. Then followed by 1000 Genomes Project in 2007 that sequenced 2,500 human genomes seeking variants present in 1% of people in several populations. And then we have the CleanSec that began in 2009 that comparing the genomes of 1,500 participants to their health history as pilot study of adding genome information to clinical care. Then we also have the Clinical Genome Resource that began in 2013 that developed a framework to evaluate clinical relevant gene variants. So, improving speed and coverage. So, sequencing the first human genomes took 6 to 8 years. Today, it can be done in a day. So, the cost has fallen dramatically as well. And there has been improvements in sequencing technology that enable the researchers to work with many more copies of an individual's genome, which is termed coverage. So, the sequencing genomes provides much more information than sequencing the exomes, which are just the exon parts of the protein encoding genes. So knowing the sequences surrounding the exon can detect the structural variants, which may move or flip the DNA but does not alter the base sequence. The exome sequencing arrays must be designed to distinguish between pairs of SNPs on the same homologous chromosomes or on different homologs. So like what I've said earlier, the cost decreased. So from 1990, it is 1 billion, but in 2040, it roughly costs less than $4,000. So what is the goal? So the goal of genomics is annotation. So when we say annotation, or linguistic term, it is a note of explanation or comment added to a text or diagram. But in genomics, it is the description of genes and what the significance of a particular gene variant is likely to be. So genome annotation is the process of identifying the location of genes and all of the coding regions in a genome and determining what those genes do. So the annotation of a gene variant may include the normal function of the gene, the mode of inheritance, what type of genotype, and the frequency of a variant in a particular population. So knowing the frequency is very important. So we have the common and rare. So common means many people live it and less likely to cause a serious illness, while rare is that it can cause a serious illness but sometimes can be harmless and just unusual. So what are the limitations of exome and genome? So the exome sequences include only the 1 to 2% of the genome that encodes the protein. But exome and genome sequencing will not detect the few genes that reside in the mitochondria rather than in the nucleus. So the DNA repeats will not show up on the exome or genome sequences beyond one copy with other types of tests because having multiples of the sequence does not alter the sequence. And the deletions will not show up in the sequencing, and the exons buried within highly repeated introns may also not be detected. So this sequencing are also blind to uniparental disomy, or a rare situation in which a child inherits two alleles of a gene from one parent rather than one from each. So it is rare, but it happens. And once the genome is fully annotated, additional computational power may be required to determine and describe all possible combinations of gene variants, incorporating control sequences such as those that encode the microRNAs. So what is personal gene sequencing? So genome sequencing can provide a canvas in which other types of information can be painted to give a fuller picture of how our bodies function and malfunction. So what are the practical criteria? So one of three questions that are being asked is, does it benefit outweigh risk? Is it as effective as an existing test or treatment? Or Will it help people an existing approved test or treatment? So, a DNA test result alone is not sufficient to diagnose a disease, but may support a clinical diagnosis based on symptoms and the results of other types of tests, such as laboratory tests and radiology and pathological testing. And a DNA test alone is not sufficient for diagnosis because of incomplete penetrance, possible variable expressivity, epistasis, genetic heterogeneity, and environmental influences. So, do you want your genome sequence? So, listed below are some final thoughts to consider in deciding whether or not when to have your own genome sequence and some more general questions. So, who should decide which gene variants are reported to a patient? The patient or a healthcare provider? So, what criteria should a healthcare provider consider in deciding which genome findings to report to a patient? And should a healthcare provider inform a patient of a gene variant that adds only slightly to the risk of developing a particular multifactorial disorder such as hypertension? And there should only actionable genome findings be reported to a patient, and many more. So that's the end of our discussion. I hope you learned something today. Thank you so much for listening. And that will be the end of our subject. And I hope you do well on your final exam. Good luck, everyone.